Hello, women. Welcome to She Talks, a space for you to come home to your inner wisdom, or your she. I'm Sara Avant, a yoga and meditation teacher, best-selling author, and spiritual guide for women. I created this podcast because I wanted to offer Dharma talks, or wisdom teachings as they're called in the Buddhist tradition, through the distinct lens and voice of the sacred feminine. Because I believe that when a woman gets still and quiet enough to hear the voice of the divine within her, she can finally download the guidance she needs to become the most magnificent expression of herself possible, and in turn, inspire others to do the same. Throughout both the first halves of November and December, I'm offering a special series here on the podcast called Dakini's Den. In Tibetan Buddhism, dakinis are manifestations of awakening, appearing in feminine form. And Dakini's Den was the name of the monthly class and Dharma talk I gave in this year's 9-month women's spiritual practice community, the She School, and its mastermind component, the She Leadership Circle. These talks were a favorite both for me and the women in the programs, and I'm going to share several excerpts with you here over the next month. I also created this series in honor of the opening of the latest evolution of the She School. This year, it will be a 12-month program called A Year of She, and this is the 8th year that I've been leading some version of this. A Year of She is for women who want to make their spiritual practice the foundation of their life in 2019. And its mastermind level, the She Leadership Circle, is for women who want to apply their spiritual insights to their careers for more impact, creativity, and service. Early registration with special gifts and discounts closes on November 16th, and then regular registration closes on December 13th. To learn more, head to ayearofshe.com. That's ayearofshe.com. And for now, welcome to Dakini's Den. Hello, beautiful women. Welcome to our special guest interview today with Julie Cobb. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation with Julie because this connection with our intuition is really at the heart of the She School, or she is our intuition. And I know that there's a lot of growth and learning over our entire lives that need to happen around more deeply connecting to and learning how to decipher and trust and to live from this wellspring of inner wisdom. So welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Sara.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you, and I really feel honored to have me here.
Aw. All right, so I'm going to introduce Julie, and then we'll just dive right in. So I met Julie recently. I think it was last fall. A friend of mine connected me with her, and since then I've just really resonated with who she is as a woman and what she's doing in the world, and also had a reading with her myself. And she's done over 13,000 readings, which is amazing. I don't even know how that's possible. Since quitting her job in software to make this her full-time career. Since 2010, she has also been teaching people how to access their own intuition and read energy. And when not working, Julie is an explorer, traveling, doing water sports, cooking food, and walking Jamie Fernando and Noel. Is Noel, has that how
Nole,
her chihuahuas. Is that a new one? A new addition to the family?
Nole is a new addition, yes.
Wow. Okay, great. So her websites are highhearthealing.com or intuitiveboulder.com. Were you just about to say something, Julie?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
We always start our gatherings here with a little bit of a personal sharing, just to help us land in the circle. And I invite you to tune into yourself and let us know where you're joining us from today and just how you're doing in the different dimensions of your being.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that introduction. And Sara, it's so nice to hear your voice. And
it's nice to hear yours too.
Yeah. I'm physically joining you today. I'm actually in Santa Rosa, California right now. But I recently moved to Ojai, California from Boulder after 23 years in Boulder. So I would say, on a personal body, heart, mind level, I've made some big shifts in my life, which have felt really good, but with any change, kind of comes like adjustment, for lack of better words. I would say I'm feeling pretty good in that kind of large life transition and adjustment, and also I would say the work that I do in this world, it feels really good. I kind of went through a little bit of a period of stagnation with it, and now it feels like my connection with being an intuitive and teaching people has been, reignited and kind of take me to a place of more inspiration, which feels pretty good. But yeah, on a personal level, definitely going through a lot of changes and kind of riding the roller coaster through that, for lack of better words.
Thank you. Yeah, and at my end, I am in Boulder, and I'm kind of at the front end of a big change. And Julie's on the other, so you're on the other side of it. And,
I know. Hopefully, we'll be neighbors.
Yeah. What's that? Hopefully, we'll be neighbors.
I said hopefully we'll be neighbors at some point.
Yeah. So I'm just in this period of preparing and waiting for the right timing, and feeling just a sense of completion with one end of my journey, but not yet in the other. And yeah, mornings like this, it's super windy here in Boulder. And it's mornings like this where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go to the other side. Transition. And I'm also really tired. Even though I've been sleeping so much, just really tired. And I think I'm just in a big phase of healing and it's a reshuffling of things inside me. So I'm just going with that.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Julie, this shift from software to being an intuitive, that's a really big shift. Like, how did you get interested and involved in this work in the first place?
It kind of smacked me in the head. It wasn't, I really had no interest in this work. And in fact, I would probably say, 15 years ago that it's not cool. But it's, I went through about 12 years ago, a big breakup. And, I didn't really feel at that time, I was always a very sensitive person, but I wasn't a very present person or kind of connected to, myself. And I went through a big breakup, and it wasn't even a big breakup. I got, dumped, and my heart kind of got crushed open. And at that point in my life, I kind of started doing things I never would have fathomed. I went and got my Reiki certification, which is, it's kind of like a, hands-on energy work with other people. And I got my Reiki certification, and when I was practicing on, friends and neighbors and family, I basically would get information. And so a friend of mine at that time asked me, and she's like, what are you going to do with this? And it just kind of came out of my mouth. And that time period in my life, it really was a little surreal, where I was, things came out of my mouth that would have never come out of my mouth. I had experiences that were, really spiritual experiences. And, so it came out of my mouth at that time that I wanted to be a psychic. And she said to me, she was like, well, why are you developing, Reiki and not developing your intuition? And it was a valid point. I think at the time, Reiki was a little bit more socially acceptable, and I wasn't at a place where I was ready to own, like claiming myself as an intuitive or a psychic. But I did go to a school in Boulder that it's a school called Psychic Horizons, and the experience was very validating for me as an intuitive, because we practiced doing readings there. But the way that they teach you how to read is I rubbed up against it. They taught you how not to feel, and I believe in feeling, and so it was a good place for me to get very validated for what I do, and people really liked when I gave them readings, and I was also still kind of in a lot of pain at that time in my life, almost like searching for a deeper sense of myself that was very it was an antithesis to what I learned to be as a kid. I learned, if you're a good athlete and if you're successful in your corporate career, then you'll be loved. And I started doing things that kind of went against maybe my parents' approval, and unknowingly I was kind of finding myself. But the school that I went to, one of the teachers said to me at one point, she's like, if you want to heal faster, read more people. And I kind of grabbed a hold of that, because I was in some pain at that time in my life, and I started reading people for free, and all through word of mouth it spread, and through kind of trial and error I came up with a structure of how I'm comfortable reading, what I'm reading, and obviously just simply practicing readings helped me formulate that structure. And I just started reading tons of people, and at first it was for free. And at the time, I was actually the CEO of a software startup in Boulder, and I did it in my spare time. And over the span of about a year, it became actually so overwhelming that I kind of was confronted with a choice of, do I want to spend, at the time, probably like 12 or 14 hours a day doing something I don't love, or really doing something that I absolutely love, and was a huge risk to me. I didn't have a lot of money at the time either. And so I didn't have this safety net. And finally, my body wouldn't let me send another email for this company that I worked for. I developed shingles, which is kind of like a nervous system body, virus that really, in my opinion, was just saying, hey, you do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, it was quite a journey to where I am today, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I absolutely love what I do, and obviously I'm still learning a lot about myself through the process, and of course I get to help other people, maybe see their struggles in life differently.
So I have a question about this, the woman or the teacher that you had at the, what was it called, Psychic Horizons? You said if you want to heal faster, do more readings. How did that work? Like, how did doing so many readings help you to heal faster?
Well, the way that I see it today is, and I don't know if this is how she actually sees it, or I think it's maybe fair to say that I don't know that she knows why she said that. The way that I see it is that, it's hard to say when I do a reading what is actually healing for people. But I would say mostly the conclusion that I've come to, because there's so many facets to a reading in terms of intention, what I'm reading. I want to read people's pain. I want them to understand their pain so that they can solve it. Pain is what drives everyone in this world. But the biggest thing is that I'm creating the intention to connect to someone on a different level. And I use the way that I do readings is I put words and visualizations to empathy. We all have empathy. I don't have a gift that anyone in this world doesn't have. It's just that I trust what I feel. And I trust what I feel enough to put words to it. And when we, sit down and close our eyes and hold someone's hand, or in my case, do a reading with someone, I'm going out of the world of separation and going into the world of connection on a soul level. I'm not reading their physical body. I'm reading their energy, their intuition, and creating intention to connect to someone. And we are so often in the world of separation where we try to solve pain by comparing or justifying or, all of these things or being our parents. And so empathy, in my opinion, is healing. When someone sees you and says, "Hey, I feel you, I got you," and it's actually okay to be in pain. Let me help you understand, why your body is telling you to do something different, or let me read that part of you, and unconditionally kind of, be there and say it's okay. Because when we kind of get out of that space of connection, in my opinion, we're trying to solve everyone else's pain, especially as women. I know me personally, and I don't know if this resonates for other people on this call, but I was trained as a kid to kind of, put my feelings second and put everyone else's first. And so I became really good at kind of intuitively tuning in to what other people needed versus what I needed and validated for solving their problems. And as, I would say maybe like a healer in this world or a facilitator in this world, our first inclination is to want people to not be in pain. Whereas pain is actually communication. It's a universal communication that very simply says, hey, you're holding a hot potato, do something different. It doesn't matter if it's depression, anxiety, or what. Your body is saying do something different. But in all reality, creating that connection with someone else is both healing for myself and other people. And she was right. She was absolutely right. I started doing a lot of readings and spending a lot of time during the day in that connection. And it's hard to say, I hope other people got something out of it, but it was incredibly evolving for me. It is really what lights up. And in all reality, we don't do anything in this world that isn't self-fulfilling. Even when we say that, all right, I'm going to go work for the Peace Corps or help this other person, it's because it evokes a feeling within us. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it.
And how do you've already touched on this, but I want to just get it concise for the women listening who are still trying to define it for themselves. But how do you define intuition? What is it?
Well, you just said it really well, is that it is a personal thing. And I think we're bombarded with a lot of information in this world, and I truly believe it's meant to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. For me, intuition is, I think the textbook definition is like logic or coming to a conclusion without logic or a knowingness. For me, it's feeling. It's putting words to empathy. It's trusting what you feel. For other people, it might be, hearing something or seeing something or having a dream. All of those are complete fair game. But I think it's the most important thing is it's an instantaneous kind of first feeling or first, hit. And then, following that hit or taking action on it without giving your mind an opportunity to undo it. When I teach people, I'm essentially just teaching people who already have, all of the skills to be intuitive, just to trust their first impulse. And I think as kids, we're trained to not trust that impulse. We're trained to do what we think we should do. And it could be as benign as, as a kid, you're like, it's 4:00, I feel hungry, I want ice cream. That's an intuitive, kids are best at it, they're the best at intuition. That's an intuitive hit until your mom says, no, we haven't had dinner yet. We can't have ice cream until after dinner. And then you start operating based on what you think you should do and slowly ignoring your intuition. And we're kind of trained to do that. And I would say what I learned and teach is to get back to that childlike place where you're actually truly listening to your body.
So what is one way to start doing that?
That's such a great question. I think that the most important thing is 99.9% of the time, our intuition is going to undo what we learned. So it's when we really start, I would say, following our intuition, it's going to dismantle everything and even be polar from what we learned. You might learn that, hey, all my life I ate oatmeal for breakfast. And when I started listening to my intuition, I woke up and was like, wow, I really want a cheeseburger for breakfast. But then it really kind of messes with us where we're like, well, I learned that oatmeal is more healthy, or I learned that, you should always eat breakfast, and your body might actually want to operate completely differently. And I would say where it gets the most sticky is in the name of spirituality. I would say the ego on the streets is one thing, and then the ego in the spiritual world is a whole nother thing. And so you might intuitively feel tired during the middle of a yoga class, but your mind is like, oh, yoga's good for me, or meditation's good for me, and in the name of spirituality and growth and evolving, I should do this. Well, you're still perpetuating the same pattern of maybe like something you learned as a kid in the name of spirituality. So the work really is I would say, the long answer to your question, Sara, is that if you want to get better at following your intuition, I would say get better at feeling. Maybe wear a bracelet on your hand or a ring on your finger where every time you look at it, you're like, maybe you put your hand on your gut. And the intention is how do I feel right now? And the more we take action on that feeling, the more you're actually going to find your purpose and what you came here to do and your gifts in this world when you really know how you feel versus doing what you think you should do. And I think for many women in this world, and that might be like a projection, but we're trained to not feel for ourselves. We're trained to take care of other people and to solve their problems. And in all reality, that makes us tired. It kind of drains our energy. And the more we take care of ourselves, the more we can actually help other people and be an example. And it goes back to what I said earlier about holding space for people. It really boils down to energy and vibration, that if we are a vibration in the presence of someone else that says, hey, I not only feel you, but I'm an energetic example of changing patterns and of taking care of myself, and you actually have permission to take care of yourself too. That's what, in my opinion, what is going to heal the world or change the world is if we can be energetic examples of change and power and boundaries. And like I said, that might be a total projection. But I'm certain that's my journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely relate. I mean, just with my own journey and what I see, with all the women who are here and that I have worked with over the years. So the main things that disconnect us from our intuition, you've mentioned the starts in childhood where it's like these beliefs, these shoulds that get piled up. Do you think that that's the only thing that disconnects us and it just grows bigger and bigger over time, or are there other dimensions of that too?
That's a great question. My impulse is to say that obviously in the name of love, we're going to, as kids, do what our parents want us to do. Mostly. Sometimes we go the opposite direction, but it still is, the energy often is the same underneath. But, as kids, when our parents want us to get A's, we get more love than getting D's. And so we might not like school, but we do it because it makes them happy, and then we feel safe or we feel loved. So I think that probably perpetuating those patterns are one of the biggest disconnects from our true essence or our soul selves, because we're not really our soul selves. We're just perpetuating the patterns we learned to get love as a kid. Versus, an unconditional love would simply be like your parents loving you the same if you got a D. And maybe recognizing that, hey, school might not have been, your thing. But we typically don't do that. So I would say that is a big disconnect from our intuition. But I think the most disservice is that we're trained to not listen to our intuition. So we almost have to learn how to feel for ourselves before we can even know a yes or no. You have to learn, what a yes or no is to you based on feeling, and then you can make that decision, because, you might, a yes to you is a no to someone else. And so I would say everything in society disconnects us from our intuition. We're not supported in our society to be powerful, to be to feel, or to actually experience the benefits of feeling and clearing ourselves and healing ourselves. If we're trained to be like, wow, I feel angry and that's okay, that anger can move. That anger can be let go. Everything's a wave. But we're trained that there's something wrong with anger or sadness. So, and that, kind of feeds our society to be in fear, to be angry or sad. Versus actually feeling those feelings. And so I would say it's fair to say everything, disconnects us from our intuition. But I would say it's actually, it's not a daunting process to learn how to feel. It's actually quite easy. And then once you feel, you can make decisions based on feeling. And like I said, meditation might not be your thing, something that's intuitive, that connects you to your intuition might be, cooking or, like dancing, or it could be anything. But you're not going to know until, one, you have the courage to start to discover, like kids discover, and kind of find yourself again, and try different things, and then intuitively say yes or no, this feels right, or this doesn't feel right for me. But I think that one of the biggest things that I run across is, in the name of spirituality, still perpetuating patterns that you learned as a kid. And I always use the yoga class example. If you don't feel like finishing a yoga class, I challenge you not to finish it. I challenge you to walk out. And if you're in the presence of a teacher that's like, don't leave the yoga class, push yourself through it, ask yourself in the middle, well, does that feel true for me? And so, and that's where it's going to get the most sticky, because I think, in the world of, really anything, we operate in a society that there's an order of magnitude. Like one thing is better than another, but it's not. There's only what's right for you, and that is going to look different than the person next to you, and for sure you're probably the family you grew up in.
Right. So then the main things that connect us to our intuition those are different things for each of us. And we need to go on that like childlike journey of just exploring what feels like a yes in my body.
Yeah. And I think one thing I teach people is, and it's fair to say, because the most important piece to that, Sara, is to really effectively learn how to feel for yourself. And I know in my journey, I was feeling for everyone else. I didn't know the difference between a sadness I had and picking up someone else's sadness. And so I would say the most important piece to that is learning how to feel for yourself. And some people don't even know what they're feeling. And so what I teach people to do, which is a really easy exercise, is when you're stuck and you don't know how you feel, close your eyes and imagine a big white movie screen in front of your face and simply ask to see a big green yes or a big red no. And if nothing comes, then make it up. Pick your first impulse. Well, that's a big green yes, or that's a big red no. And then I would say validate yourself with seeing how you feel and asking yourself questions. Be like, do I feel like having coffee with my friend? And put your hand on your gut, close your eyes, and ask to see that big red yes or big green yes or big red no. And start to learn how to see how you feel, and then you can kind of bridge a gap with actually your body knowing how to feel, because it's fair to say some of us don't know what we're feeling. And then from that place of knowing how you feel, and you're sure that like, wow, my body said no to having coffee with a friend, and quite honestly, looking back on it, I always feel crappy after I leave, and blah blah blah. Then you can start to build a dictionary for yourself. But I know the case was for myself that I didn't know how to feel for myself. I had to almost learn. And so I would say the biggest piece to what you just said is really knowing what a yes and a no is for you. And you can start there, and then you can get into like, oh, I feel tired, and it's apathy and all of those things if you really want to define it. But and then from there, you'll have a better judge of what feels good and what doesn't. And I want to be clear that sometimes we'll have a yes that feels true, but it also feels scary. Like you might be like, I feel like going on this big trip or going skydiving. Like that might feel scary and be a no, or scary and be a yes. Because we are intuitively sometimes drawn to things that are new and can feel scary, but ask yourself if it feels like a yes or a no, because sometimes skydiving might feel like a no for you, and just be like, hey, that's not my thing. And there's no awards for making yourself do something that your body doesn't want to do.
Right. So something, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to articulate this well, but something that's coming to mind around feeling from my journey and just from what I hear back and what I witness back from the women that I work with is, one of the things that we do here is learn how to just notice and name our emotions.
Yeah.
And I think there's another piece in there. There's like, yes, one that we've disconnected from ourselves, and we're focused outward, and we're feeling for other people. Mm-hmm. And there's a way that, like, I don't know, there's like it's like we just feel like feelings are wrong. Mm-hmm. And if like a hard feeling comes, there's I'm not sure how to say it. It's like, it's more just like trying to get rid of it than actually seeing, right, like, what is this telling me?
Yeah.
Like that this is a signpost, like that this is my intuition, right, talking to me. Like we want to push it away rather than like go into it and see like, oh, this is my friend. Like this depression is helping me, trying to help me.
Well, that's such a great, I would say, observation and thing to say. And I think you're absolutely right, is we're, it's so funny. Like a parent could say to you as a kid, when you're sad, what's wrong? And that's totally benign. That's even, in our minds, a loving parent, but it also indicates that something's wrong if you're sad. Versus, what I've learned is that sadness and anger are just as vibrationally as important as love and joy. And the point is that when we hold them in and kind of like don't see them as energy or see them as something wrong, it just builds up into eventually pain. Versus, when we are sad and angry, like kind of being like, oh, there's anger. I'm going to sit with it until it passes, or I'm going to get curious, and hold the body part, from a somatic principle, hold the body part I feel it in and understand where it comes from. And you could close your eyes and put your hand on your throat and be like, wow, I feel a hot heat that's in anger. And the first image that I get, or the first thing that comes to mind is that this comes from like not being allowed to express as a kid. And then when you sit with it and acknowledge it, it will dissipate. Energy is a wave, and anger is just a vibration. And it's a vibration that's no more or less important than love or joy. But we're taught that there's something wrong with it. And so that's such a valid question. But we also have to undo and practice. The only way to get through undoing that pattern that we hold of something being wrong with our seemingly negative emotions is to practice relating to them differently. They're important, and they're also communication, and so and my work is to help understand or validate what it is, because oftentimes we don't know if it's someone else's energy that we're holding. If as kids, our parents were always had a fear of lack or money, and then we also have a fear of lack or not having enough money. We're basically saying that, hey, I'll collectively suffer with you to make you feel better. And that means holding someone else's pain. And so, understanding what it actually is. Oftentimes, from what I've found, more often than not, it's not even ours. Or when we're in a clearing process, it's hard to delineate the feeling of something leaving versus acquiring something. Anger leaving can feel just the same as the body to acquiring anger, and knowing the difference is valuable. Also, in terms of like how we relate to it.
How can you tell the difference between if it's clearing out of you or if it's coming in?
I would just say close your eyes. Maybe I like to say put your hand on your body where you feel it, maybe where you feel the sensation, and close your eyes and ask yourself, is this anger leaving, or is this anger, that I picked up? Because we're often triggered to heal what we need to heal. Like somebody might beep at us on the road and it triggers us, and what it's triggering is an energy that we're, ready to let go of. And so I would say, how do we know the difference is just simply close your eyes and ask yourself. And I would say, most importantly, you're going to know the difference because of your awareness around it. When you're not aware of like, oh, that person made me angry, well, I'm going to scream in the car just to let go of that anger. You're clearing something, because you're not, kind of playing the game or perpetuating the cycle of like, well, they got mad at me, which evoked anger, and I'm going to get mad at them, which evoked anger. So I would say your spiritual awareness around it will know what's clearing when you clear it yourself versus trying to perpetuate the cycle of trying to have them hold your pain back. That's the most notable example. Also, just know that like we're intuitively drawn to doing cleanses. They don't feel good, but we know they're true. Those are clearing kind of processes physically, and anything that happens physically is happening emotionally. So when you clear toxicity physically, you're clearing toxicity emotionally, and vice versa. Your body has to change with any evolution that you make.
Right. This is all so interesting.
It's so fun. There's so many facets to it.
So many layers. And
yeah,
we just don't talk about any of this. We don't learn about it, and it's just it's like the foundation of everything.
It is, and it's, you're so right. We're never never in our lives as kids are we're not given permission to put words to our empathy. It's not something that anyone teaches us, and it's so fun to teach people because it's really so simple, and it's really, I sit people down, or now it's all online, but you close your eyes in front of someone else, and you basically build a story to their energy. At first I help, but you're essentially dreaming for someone else's energy. You'll be like, all right, I see a pair of, red high heels for you. Well, those red high heels mean something to you, and when you're intending to read someone else's energy, it's like, oh, those red high heels, they're feminine, they're powerful, they're, like whatever else. But what you didn't see was Birkenstocks or Converse Chucks. You saw, red high heels, and that has meaning. And so it's actually quite simple to put words or pictures to someone else's energy. And your first impulse is always right. I've never had a person be like, that wasn't amazing. Because I think that what I really teach isn't how to be intuitive. It's how to validate your intuition that you've already had your whole life. Everyone walks into a room and is like, oh, this person feels good or this person feels bad. We do this all the time. Now you can be like, well, I'm getting a feeling from this person, and you could create intention and be like, well, where does that come from? Or what does it look like? Or, it's all about intention, but this is something we all do unconsciously. And now, I just give permission to actually trust it.
And one of the things I'm hearing from you is this, it's like the slowing down of the process and asking questions. So whether that's asking, okay, if I project this onto a screen, is it a yes or is it a no? Or like slowing things down, and when you're feeling something, saying like, am I feeling this for someone else? Or taking more time with these like automatic reactions that, like you said, like the hot potato that we might usually just like just try to toss away from us.
Right. Yeah, it's whenever, if you practice that reading screen with the yes or no, you might actually get a ton more information than just a yes or a no. You might get like a whole picture. And you might be like, wow, like I saw this picture of this, I don't know, like fire hydrant and a house on fire. And then you'll be like, well, I have no idea what that means. The truth is you do, because your work is to consistently just ask questions. Why? Well, why do I see fire? And trust your first impulse, trust the first feeling. And you'll be like, wow, fire evokes movement. Nobody really sits around in a fire. We move, we get out, why did I see a fire in a house that I grew up in, or, why was it in someone else's house? Trust your first impulse, but consistently to yourself, ask the question, why? When I read someone else, and I'll always like at first, create a story to their energy or see their energy as if it were a story, it always unfolds amazing messages. But it's a process of simply asking, well, why do I see them in Converse Chucks? Well, there's a playful side of them that wants to come out. Or why do I see them going through a rite of passage? Well, they're going through a major transition in their life right now. Or why do I see fire or water? And just trust your first impulse. Water, my first hit on water is it's fluid, it's feminine. It's and sometimes even scary to me. Like it's the fear of stepping into my feminine energy, or when I'm reading it for someone else, trusting the first thing that lights up. It might be that they have a fear of, or that they're rigid through a process that they're going through, and it wants to be more fluid. But it's quite easy, just consistently. The hardest part is trusting yourself, because that typically undoes pretty profound patterns we learned as a kid to not trust ourselves. And so, but always, no matter what, your intuition and your first impulse is always right. And I want to be clear, if it doesn't come to you, make it up. There's no difference between we think that intuition is it has to come to us, but it's our first impulse. And I teach people that if it doesn't come to you, make it up. I make up all my readings. Creation is creation. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I thought of something yesterday, or read a book, and that's what I had an impulse to say. But that's what it is. It's trusting your first impulse and getting into that. I also want to be clear that our intuition, we get stuck in thinking that it leads us down a rosy path. It doesn't. I believe it leads us down the path of most opportunity to heal what we need to heal, to get what we want in this world. No doubt on an animal level, our intuition keeps us safe. We're going to know not to walk down a dark alley if it doesn't feel safe. That's like that animal-like intuition. But we're also intuitively going to be guided to experiences that help us evolve. And that's where it gets sticky, is people think that it's supposed to it's supposed to always be comfortable, and it's supposed to always, help us not date someone who is a bad boy or whatever.
Right.
The truth is that we're going to intuitively follow the path that's going to help us evolve, and we get to decide, well, yeah, I was intuitively drawn to this kind of relationship for a long time, and you know what? I decided it doesn't feel good anymore. And that's the difference between doing something that feels true versus not feeling true. We'll sometimes follow our intuitive impulses for the sake of learning, until we're like, hey, that learning that I've experienced, I've done enough and it doesn't feel good anymore. So I'm going to start to say no to it. I'm going to change that pattern and attract a different experience.
Right. Right. I'm thinking of one of the biggest questions that I get, because one of the reasons why I created the She School is to actually get this education that we never got as women, to how to listen to and trust these subtle dimensions of ourselves rather than all the externals. And one of the big things that women come up against is like, how do I know which, like, there's so many voices inside of me. How do I know which one is my intuition?
Mm-hmm. That's such a great question. And the work that you're doing is profound. It's awesome. I would say, be kind to yourself. It's a practice. We're all human. And as long as we're all human, we're all going to be experiencers. It's all going to be trial and error. It's all going to be practice. Nobody has it 100% right. Even in the name of spirituality, we get stuck in thinking that, like Gandhi has it all right, like it's not true. I believe we are all here on earth right now to heal, and it's a practice. And so sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I would say, it's fair to say that probably everyone on this call is in a layer where they're starting to become really aware of, okay, I listened to what I thought I should do, and it just doesn't feel good. And then I had this impulse that, I wanted to do it this way, and I followed it, and wow, that really felt right on. Remember, it's a practice. Trusting what you feel. You're going to wake up often and maybe feel like, I don't feel like going to work, but you make yourself go to work, until that changes. And so there will be a point, though, after you do practice and put intention. Intention is so powerful. When you start to listen to your body, it's inevitable your body will start to feel better. You'll start to feel better. Your bliss will be more blissful. And so your body will shine for you when you start to listen to it in a deeper way. And you might, wake up one day and be like, all right, I'm eating a cheeseburger for breakfast. I'm not going to go to work. I'm going to go get a pedicure. And I am not going to meet with that friend that I committed to meeting to because I just don't feel like it. And I'm going to cancel this plan because I don't feel like it. And then you're going to realize, after probably having a little bit of guilt because it goes against what you learned as a kid, you're going to realize that you feel better. You're more attractive. New people are coming to you. New experiences are coming to you. Things get easier. And so then it becomes a little bit addictive, and it becomes more fun. But it's fair to say that the transition process of it can be really dismantling because we're undoing patterns of how we got love as a kid. We got more love for, dropping everything and helping the neighbor when the neighbor needs help. But you might not feel like helping the neighbor. You might actually feel really crappy, and it doesn't serve anyone to help the neighbor when you don't feel well. And so really starting to listen to ourselves first is really, it can be a challenging process. And it's, we get stuck also in thinking that, if we become really self-centered and we listen to ourselves first and we're in our intuition, that the process is going to feel good. And any process of change can feel really awkward and really uncomfortable. But your work is to really ask yourself those questions. This feels uncomfortable. Am I still on the right path? Yes. And really start to trust yourself in that capacity.
Great. I'm going to check to see. I'm going to check our line. So women who are on the line, you are welcome to ask questions. You can press *2 on your keypad. You can also type your question in. If you're on the webcast, you can type them into the Q&A box. And let's see. And I will just monitor just those two places to see if there's any questions coming in for Julie for the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Julie, one of the things from what you just answered, like a phrase that I've been using in my own life and just the women that I work with is that you can't get it wrong. Like we have this idea in life that there's like a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And there is no wrong way. So even if we're in that awkward phase of trying to figure out what's the voice of other people telling me what I should do that I've internalized and what's my intuition. It's like, even if what you follow is not your intuition, like that's still okay because that's still leading you like closer into yourself.
It's such a beautiful way to say it. And I would completely agree. I think that everything in this world from, the Bible to the table was made by someone's opinion. It was made by a human with ego. And, your work is to decide what resonates for you and what doesn't. And the only way to do that is to know what feels true and what doesn't. A good example is, I don't really subscribe to any religions or spiritualities. I believe in physics, energy, and the laws of attraction. But Buddhism is often touted as this everyone's kind, you have to, be gentle, be kind, be caring. But you got to ask yourself, okay, there's not like many women in high level Buddhism. Does that feel true for me? No, it doesn't. Actually, whoever picks the Gandhi, the pickers of the Gandhi, is that any different than, I'm sure, also, and this is just personal, our presidency, we can say, oh, you're really chauvinist, but is Buddhism any different? Is the undertone any different? And so you really have to, like in my opinion, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. There's so many principles and so many things out there that really resonate with me, and there's also a lot that don't. And through that, I get to build my own truth. And I'll tell people in readings, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. By no means am I 100% right. I'm a second opinion to someone's energy. It can feel validating, but I am not right. I'm a second opinion, and so I kind of believe, like exactly what you said, is that you're not wrong. You're never wrong. Your experience is your experience, and that's powerful. When we, especially as women in this world, when we start to I think there's a saying like a powerful woman is someone who trusts themselves or something like that. I know I'm sure there's a bazillion sayings around that realm, but imagine like how powerful you are, operating from the ways that you learned thus far, and give boundaries to that. Give be like, yeah, I actually, sorry I changed my mind, but I don't feel like meeting up today. My body's tired and I'm going to rest. That is exponentially powerful. And so, I really feel like our work is to find ourselves, and nothing out there is 100% a yes or 100% a no. There's this works or this doesn't work.
If you're inspired to live these teachings in your daily life, come on over and explore A Year of She at ayearofshe.com. This is a 365-day course with women's yoga classes, meditation, Dharma talks, community, seasonal living, and so much more. We're a sisterhood that doesn't just talk about things, we actually practice. And this isn't about crystals and rituals, although we love those things too. But it's about genuinely working with your own energy, because the real power isn't in things outside of you, however wonderful those things are. The real power is in you, and it's a rare woman who really lives that. Remember, registration is only open once a year, which is right now, and our 12-month journey starts on January 1st. It would be an honor to support you in stepping into your strength, feminine wisdom, and power in the year ahead. Until next time, I am sending you my heartfelt support. Thank you so much for being part of our sisterhood.